Hey, Brown, you're muted.
Quarter after quarter. This is how we rock. This is how we roll. Side to side when we ride. Financial freedom that go one for one for all. Unified when we ball. We don't do no shopping sprees. We going in on the mall. Why run out on your plug? Loyalty is royalty. You codified with my crew. We rap tight like foil be. From the underground where the soil be. Way up to the top. Strategize, invest wise, make boss moves with my co-op. I work it out what I put in. Fair reciprocation. Prince in the mud, my foot in. Work social transformation. We share the risk and rewards. That's all losses and profit. If I'm supposed to do bigger doors, I'm star static to cosmos. Cooperate. Keep it simple, stupid. If we go in and cut more cheaper, we can move it. Let this stack it, place the bigger order. Eating off residuals, quarter after quarter. Cooperate. Keep it simple, stupid. If we go in and cut more cheaper, we can move it. Then let this stack it, place a bigger order. Eating off residuals, quarter. Cooperate. Keep it simple.
B1AG, welcome back once again. I'm glad you made it back. It's a beautiful Monday morning. And, we're here to supply you this daily bread. My name is John Henry, 904, and we have Farmer Brown EMC. And today we're going to attack the issue of fast foods. Knuckle up. It's the attack of the value meal. Now, the fast food industry has become almost a necessity in a lot of our lives because just of time. We spend a lot of time trying to acquire resources, working, ripping and running to where it seems that we're just stopping to grab a quick meal, off the value menu is how we sustain ourselves. But are we really sustaining ourselves with with the value meal, with this fast food? There is definitely a downturn to eating a lot of fast food. And we're going to talk about that today and how it's really important that, we really green up our diet, eat better, just for survival sakes. And there are there is scientific research that backs up the claim that, this value meals, these fast foods are really not that valuable to our human body at all. So Farmer Brown, let's give him something to chew on today. Let's give him some good bread to chew on today, man.
Peace, family. They say you are what you eat. You made a comment. You said these value meals aren't really that valuable. And now, so I think one of the conversation we're going to have today is perspective, putting things in perspective. So they're not valuable for the consumers. Like you said, they're very useful. If you have a fast lifestyle, I mean, a lot of us don't have, many people don't necessarily have time to cook a home cooked meal. We're on the run constantly. You think about things going on right now, say in Houston or across the country when you have these natural disasters and food becomes an issue. It becomes a battle to try to get food. But there are people, entities, corporations that do benefit from fast food. And it comes down ultimately to a choice. Here when we have this B1AG conversation, we try not to look at the problem of it, but also look at what are the alternatives. We believe in the compensatory logic. If something is going bad to the left 6 degrees, then we need to make it go right to the right 6 degrees if we want to balance it. And we want to go further to the right. So when we're talking about this food security and we're talking about food safety. And so I remember back when I was younger, my mom used to make my sandwiches. She used to make my lunch, and it was embarrassing to go to school and have a lunch box. The cool thing was to be able to go through line. This is before you understood anything about free and reduced lunch. It was just, hey, you got to eat a lunch. You got to eat a home lunch versus the school pizza. And I remember I would be so glad because sometimes she would buy me a cheeseburger from McDonald's the day before. And so I was stunting. You know, if I was able to go, and this was elementary, if I was able to go to school the next day with a cheeseburger, and it would be cold by the time lunchtime came around, but that was special, is the point I'm making. I remember on Sundays, sometimes we go to McDonald's to get the ice cream cones, but it was very sparingly. McDonald's was a special treat back when I was growing up. This is not something you eat throughout the week. I remember, you know, we had a couple of chicken spots, Lee's Famous Recipe and KFC. You know, we were talking about KFC not too long ago in the bio-printed meat. So this is back in the 80s when it was still Kentucky Fried Chicken. It wasn't, you know, just KFC. These were special moments, saying that to say. We're in a day and age now, this is the computer age, this is the social media age where, you know, our interactions happen a lot more rapidly. And so in these interactions, there's action items to be taken. You know, you called me on the phone, you chirped me, you got me on FaceTime or whatever. So now you have an action item that is literally going to take your space away from preparing a meal. Here in our household, I would say 90% of our meals are home cooked. I slip sometimes. I might have, I ain't gonna say have to is the wrong word. Sometimes I'll go to Fazoli's. That's the little Italian spot here in Lexington. Every once in a while I'll break down and go to Indy's. That's the wing spot. But for the most part, we try to produce around the house. But I'm very aware it takes a lot of time. And so if I want to feed, we have our twins down now where they're going to eat dinner between 5 and 5:30. And so to have that meal ready for them at 5 to 5:30, I have to start preparing at 3 to 3:30. I've been fortunate to work remotely, and so when we think about, okay, what happens when I got to go back to the office? What happens when mom, you know, has other things going on? So this is where fast food comes into it. And now, you know, once again, I'm not coming from a place of judgment, more so a conscientious observer. For what I'm getting now as a parent, as somebody just, I want to get something quick to eat, I don't really got time to prepare it. Is it worth what we're gaining at this moment for what we stand to, like you said, through research, deal with later in this constant battle? So when I say that, what I mean is, okay, for this cheeseburger I ate today, okay, I'm busy tomorrow too, so I'm going to end up eating burgers or some form of fast food 7 days out of the week. And each week, you know, there's always these new things that'll require, okay, well, I just get it one more day. What is this over a period of, say, 10 years? You know, you have your optimal years of operating, and I'm going to just eat fast food while I'm able to get out and get it. What does this mean when you're 50, 60, many times in our 40s? It means more health care costs. And so what I saved, okay, I should have paid maybe $10, $7 to $10 per home-cooked meal, but I was able to get this cheaper for $6. And we know these value meals are going up anyway. But what you saved on the front end, getting this fast food, you end up paying on the back end with health care. When we think about this the melanated family going to supposed to be at zero wealth by 2050, what does this look like for health care costs? Because we know our generation is eating out a lot more than, say, the generations before us. I hear my mom and some of the other elders talk about there was a time there was no such thing as a fast food restaurant. When they be going up Interstate 51 and, you know, up and down the interstate from Mississippi, wasn't nowhere you're going to stop. And plus you got sundown towns. And so it was normal culture to prepare your own food. How long am I going to be gone from the house today? How much nutrition do I need for the day? And so to that degree, you prepared your food. Versus now, okay, I got extra money. I'm just going to eat all day when I get that urge versus the actual nutritious need. And so to kind of get to your question, getting back to the topic of what we're talking about, fast food, is it worth it? And the professional in me say absolutely not. Absolutely not. It comes a thing where we have to better budget our time when it comes to food prep. North America, and this is another statistic I would challenge people to look up, North America spends the least amount of time of all countries in the world preparing our food, and we spend the least amount of money on our food. This is worldwide, meaning I have more money to spend on entertainment and shoes and everything else that we buy. Saying that to say, these are some serious discussions that we have to have. These are serious discussions we have to have once we saw what happened in Texas. This is a place that normally it's a warm climate. If I'm your average person living in Texas, the thought of a possible snowstorm coming, the thought that the store that lives within walking distance of me isn't going to have the food that I'm used to being there, these are now becoming, as we would call, this is a real thing. This isn't proverbial. This isn't metaphorical. This is a real thing to where we now have millions of people in a location that are affected by these unforeseen circumstances. Is that saying that urban gardening and agriculture is going to be the end all be all of these issues? Absolutely not. Texas has an independent energy structure. But when we break down the concept of states, which is a whole nother concept, each state is operating like a corporation within the larger corporation of America, meaning what I'm doing in Kentucky might be a very different protocol than what you have going on in Georgia. And so in case of an emergency, because we're kind of operating on different game plans, you may not be able to help me as much as you want to. And so when we think about the responsibility on the communities that live in these places, you think about the governor in what was it, Colorado, Texas. He said, get it how you live. I'm paraphrasing. He said, get it how you live. You know, it's not our responsibility. We have our opinions like, man, is this, an elected official? Is this how you're supposed to respond to your constituents? But your stomach, at the end of the day, our children's stomachs aren't going to know what this legislator, what this council person, what this mayor, what this governor said. They're going to know that I have something available or not. And so once we now see that this is a thing that happens in our community, I feel like yesterday is the time that we really need to have a serious conversation about what these structures look like. If we see the long-term bad effect that these fast food meals are going to have on our diets, we need to address this yesterday on what is going to be all our alternative. We know we have fast lives. We have to get it. You know, there are a lot of people who got a lot of new money that they're having to kick out that they wasn't planning for. And so fast food is a part of our existence. But as we see, we're getting towards pink slime, genetically altered meat. What is our alternative? Are we creating gardens? Are we creating local systems where we can at least supplement this diet and prepare for an emergency situation like we see unfolding in Texas?
Now, eating this fast food, I mean, we're just going to look at the obvious things. Uh, the portions of fast food, getting it supersized. That's one problem with fast foods because that definitely leads to weight gain. America is probably one of the most obese countries on the planet. And it all boils down to our food consumption, consuming more, and we're consuming more of bad foods, and that's going to lead to weight gain. And what researchers also found that, the long-term effects of eating fast food is actually low energy. We eat to sustain, we eat to get that energy, we eat to get those nutrients, which are not found in a lot of fast foods. So one of the side effects of eating a lot of fast foods is having chronic fatigue, from eating these types of foods. Another one, bloating, constipation, and even worse. Hey man, this fast food is doing a number on our stomach and on our digestive system, and our body reacts in accordance. You've been bloating, gas, constipation, and other disgusting things that, happens when you eat bad foods. It's going to come out bad too. It enters bad and it goes out bad.
Check this out, man. You mentioned science. I hate to cut you off. We think about the traps in the world. We look at a bando, we look at an apartment complex as a trap. These KFC, for example, we had discussed this a few shows back. Wherever there's a KFC, there's research gone into the people that live in this area. What is their taste palette desire? Some areas might like salt more. Some areas might like more of a bitter taste. Some people like more
spicy.
Sweet. And so saying that to say there are scientists, very smart people, nobody's just accidentally putting a recipe together. This is a trap. Let's be honest. Food is no different than a drug. This is why, my journey has humbled me, and hey, none of us are in any position to judge somebody for their habit. But a weed habit, crack habit, heroin habit is just as bad as a negative food habit if it has a deleterious effect on our bodies. When you understand the depth of science, I know I learned this back in some of my food safety courses. There are chemicals put in food not for your nutrition, not for this to even, I just need you to keep coming back to buy this. I don't care, what happens after you spent your money with me. You might go home, get sick, food poisoning. Once you purchase from me, I've made my profit. I can pay the people I have to pay. And because, our society is so competitive, we're a capitalist society, we've kind of foregone the quality of what we're taking into our bodies. When we speak of Illuminati, it's far surpassed Illuminati. This comes down to social habits. This comes down to that social marketing that we had discussed not too long ago. When I think about my nieces, I think about my nephews. Like, they can eat chicken nuggets all day. If you don't give them peas or some sort of vegetable alternative, they're not going to think about it. They can literally just stuff themselves with chicken nuggets. We know chicken nuggets aren't even chicken. There's been lawsuits. I was reading through something. This is why KFC had to change their name from Kentucky Fried Chicken to KFC, because it's not actually chicken. It's chicken product. There's a very different. It's very different from this is a chicken versus this is a product of chicken. Because chicken product can be, okay, I got a little chicken broth in here. I got 0.001 ratio of chicken broth. The extra excess cuts of the chicken that I couldn't use for like your prime cuts. This is what's going into our food. Because people buy it, there's an intrinsic value. And so it's not a case you can argue in a court. In public opinion, let me go somewhere where, people are having to move fast and say, hey, now you should stop moving fast and go home and cook your meals. You gonna come pay my bills? You gonna come watch my kids? You gonna pay? And so these are the discussions. Since we see that this is now a thing, what happens when, okay, the only food available in an emergency situation is just unhealthy food? What happens when I don't know somebody that actually grows fresh food? What happens when your grocery store is not able to get the food that normally comes from Mexico because we had a huge ice storm, which is one of the issues going on down in Texas right now. It eats at me. I have some family down there. They're a little farther west, and so they weren't hit as hard. But a lot of the produce, the bananas, the papayas, all of these different fruits that come from tropical regions come through Texas. They come through Mexico. And so if my roads are shut down because of ice, if my water is shut down, because the water in Texas right now, they're saying it might be a year or two before they can get their pipes and everything back where they're supposed to be. So, okay, I've shipped my bananas, my papayas, whatever from Mexico. Now, how am I going to wash them if this water is contaminated with parasites? Well, we know if you're in a rural area, there's a such thing as aquifers and wells. Is this a conversation that we have in our communities? Okay, maybe I'm in the hood in Texas. I'm not really around no wells or aquifers, but do I have a relationship with somebody in the more rural areas that does? Am I paying them some money to help them with their operations so just in case there's an emergency, I got a resource to run to? Better yet, do I have a team of maybe 10 other people in my community that agree, hey, if something does go wrong, not only if something goes wrong, we can help this producer out here. Because we know all farmers across the board right now are taking hits. And so anything we can creatively come up with on a consumer level to be able to kind of infuse and make it rain on these farmers is a welcome transaction. And so now that we see these dangers, these dangers that nobody can plan for that exist, we got to know this Texas situation isn't going to end there. President Biden, when he was still, this is before he actually got inaugurated, he said this is going to be a dark winter. It's going to be a dark, cold winter. And we're thinking, okay, every winter it gets cold and snowing. I think there was something behind that. I think what's going on in Texas right now, once again, I can't stress enough, is a warning flag. Let me not get too in my spiritual bag, but we're giving warnings. Study to show yourself approved. And when I study what goes on these screens, I'm not in Texas, but, there's enough human beings in Texas that have posted up pictures to let me know, okay, there's a thing going on there. I live in a region where we've had ice storms. You live in a region where you've had inclement weather. You've had hurricanes that have shut down your grid for 2 and 3 weeks at a time. So once again, to me, it blows my mind that this conversation isn't happening more than what Tekashi and Meek Mill got going on, what our favorite celebrities got going on. Because many of them, they're insulated in their own communities. And let's be honest, even in Texas, if you have a lot of money and you're in Houston, and any store I go to doesn't have no food, then that now takes away the value of my money. So once again, can I use my star power if I'm somebody that's a star? Can I use my entrepreneurial prowess if I'm an entrepreneur to really solidify these relationships, to secure something as natural as our food system? As natural as, hey, if the water goes out, do I have somewhere to go? These are all things we need to discuss. And when I know this has to do with fast food, but it all ties together. See, our food security isn't, okay, one piece of it's over here, then the other piece is over here. It's all holistic. It is the mindset of others that likes to divide things into pieces and figure out ways, and how can I commoditize the red blood cells. Okay, separately I'm gonna commoditize the white blood cells. Separately I'm gonna commoditize the ankle. All of these things are part of a functioning body, and so when we start focusing more attention on one than the other, when we're talking about our health, then you're gonna create these either intended or unintended consequences. This 2050 number perturbs me because, okay, when we get there at zero wealth, if this is a thing and we don't do anything about it now, what does this say about our ability to survive as a people? We see right now the COVID vaccine, the COVID hits people with pre-existing conditions. Well, where do these pre-existing conditions come from? Because we know it's in the Indian reservations. We know it's in where they say the black and brown community, the minorities. So what do all of these communities have in common? These are the communities that typically don't have as much wealth as your more well-to-do communities, as well as these communities are bombarded with fast food. And so you don't have to be a mathematician to put two and two together. Like, okay, if you're constantly subjecting yourself to food that's not natural, we have natural bodies, but you're feeding it with the unnatural source over X amount of time, it's going to affect you negatively. And so my thing, the whole thing with B1AG, how do we have these serious conversations and come up with genuine codified answers? There's one thing kind of different. Oh, it would be nice if we grew food. Oh, it could be nice if we knew somebody with water. No, we have social media. We have phones. We have networks that, these are serious conversations we need to have.
I know also with the fast food, sodium overload. I know you talked about, you touched on, salt. That sodium overload, which leads to high blood pressure, and then which also leads into, heart disease and another string of health deficiencies. At the end of the day, eating all this fast food leads to a shorter life. Fast foods are high in saturated fats, and overconsumption may lead to development of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, as well as cancer. And there has been an uptick in cancer in our community. And a lot of it comes from our food choices and what we eat. We have to green up our diet, but the overall picture is that we need to get some shovels in the ground. And as a community, we need to get some shovels in the ground. We need to get some food and seeds and shovels in the ground. We have to produce our own food. This is not a new issue. We've seen back in American history. If you look back in American history, World War I, World War II, there was a rise of what they call the victory gardens. People started gardening to supply their own vegetables because a large portion of the food in the food system was being shipped out for our soldiers. So the people had to defend, turn to themselves to feed themselves. And this is it's a natural recurring issue or a solution for fighting hunger and food insecurity is to grow your own food. And we're at a point where it's more important than ever. And it's something that we need to look at and get these shovels in the ground and start producing our own food, because it's a viable solution. It's practical and it works.
Let me tell you something, man. This is coming from the professional standpoint. We actually had a work meeting this morning. It was a group working with farmers. Farmers are the second largest group of people committing suicide right now in North America. Once again, you're dealing with a mindset of I'm protecting land. It's one thing I just want to keep my heat on. I just want to keep my car payment up to date. It's another thing when you're trying to protect your family legacy. Farmers have a whole different type of blood running through their veins. So saying that to say, one of the popular adages we've heard growing up is pride goeth before a fall. And it eats at me because farmers, and it's not a ingenuous pride. It's a pride in I can produce. I've kept this farm. I've kept this asset. One of the issues affecting us in the urban communities and participating in gardening, there's this pride issue. Like, man, I got a good job. If my neighbor sees me out here growing a garden, they might think that I'm desperate or something. Man, I'm a man. I make things happen. I don't want cats seeing me out here growing gardens, to make me look soft. There's all of these little dynamics that we tend not to think about, but they affect whether we take certain actions and behaviors or not. I can tell you, I didn't necessarily feel soft per se when I got into gardening, but I remember, amongst the crew, the guys, like, Brown, what are you doing? You gardening, you getting a green thumb? Where's your apron at? That's funny, but when you think about food security, when you think about, what is the essence of a man, in modern, is protect and provide. Well, what am I protecting? I'm protecting a space for the woman to do her magic. What are you providing? I'm providing food. Before there was a such thing as a dollar bill, before there was a valuation on gold or precious metals, a male's ability to procure food or procure a space, secure a space where the female, where you're talking about a lion, a donkey, a wildebeest, a deer, whatever, the male secures the space where food can be attained. When we're thinking about human beings, it was the males. Let's not get into a gender war. It was the males who went out, hunted, probably broke a lot of fingers and bones figuring out the best way to produce food. When we got to a point where we allowed a system to create our food and food security, I think about these gender war stories we see. Well, let's be honest. As men, are we protecting and providing? I ain't pistols all day, but hey, if I can't feed you, what am I protecting if you starve to death? And so I think this is a conversation I really, I embrace every time I'm able to talk to another male. There's a lot of sisters really putting in some good work in the ag sector, period, just bringing attention to it. But I do think there is a hard back approach that needs to be taken for us to really take agriculture to the next level, where it's not a cute buzzword or not a hobby, but it becomes a part of our culture, our FBA culture. Because, I don't have a crystal ball. Some people rub my head for good luck. But I would tend to say that our future, we haven't seen the worst of it yet. And I think one of the best things we can do as a group, that it shouldn't be tied to affiliation, what you do in your bedroom, your political leaning. We all have to eat. And we all have a responsibility within ourselves to see, now, am I doing, whatever I can on whatever small or large scale to make this system work? Just in case I make this phone call and the city who I pay my taxes to can't help. Just in case I go to the store and there's nothing there. Have I done everything I can? Because it comes a point, if you've done everything you can and there's nothing, hey, we reach 0 point. But any animal within the animal kingdom that survives, you're able to adapt to changes. And so when we think about all the lives that's been lost down in Texas and Louisiana as well, when we think about the distress, I imagine there's a lot of strained households and relationships right now. Because when money doesn't work, when the type of vehicle I got a nice car, but it's stuck in the ice. It's not going to get us nowhere. Hey, I got nice jewelry. I'm fresh, but what that going to do when we're stuck in this house? What's that going to do when we're stuck in this neighborhood around, And so we really got to look at some practical means of how do we enrich our communities. Just in case we don't want to eat this fast food that we see available to us. Because it's going to be more and more of it. There's a reason we're seeing these stories about the 3D printed meat now. I'm going to release something to you when I know there's nothing you can do about it. While I'm still in experimental phase, I'm going to put fillers out there to see how you feel. But now that I've released it to the public, this means this is a thing. We saw the other day in Russia, they've already started selling the 3D printed chicken nuggets. My kid, think about it. My children are 2. They don't know they understand healthy food because that's all they've eaten so far. But they wouldn't know the concept of, hey, these chicken nuggets that shaped like stars and little bears. At one time, this was real chicken. They wouldn't have a precedence. So once again, this is why it's important for the elder layers who have eaten a real hamburger, who have eaten a real piece of chicken, to at least have this conversation. You don't want to scare people and get people going all crazy. Oh my God, the Illuminati done got a hold of the food. No. But, we have to be honest with ourselves. Now, if I have a problem with what's going on in the food system, am I actively participating in some productive activity to address it? This is a war on our health. What did you say? Attack of the value meal. It's a war on our health. And at the end of the day, you fight a war by, there has to be an aggressive act. In this situation, okay, we're not shooting bullets and swinging swords. This is our purchasing habits. This is what I do. You know, am I willing to give 30 extra minutes of my day to make sure I'm preparing something naturally? Because, okay, it only took me maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get to this fast food joint to get this meal. But, the hell, my stomach, my body, my blood system, my cholesterol, my diabetes is going to go through X amount of years later. It might have been worth the time to budget out this 30 minutes every day to prepare a meal.
And, you know, food preparation, that definitely is a very practical solution to avoiding having to go to eat fast food. We definitely need to put more time into the preparation of our food. When we go shopping, go ahead and break your food down into portions as soon as you get home from shopping. You know, go ahead and break it down into meals. Break your food down into meals. Package it. So if you pre-prep your food, when it's time to prepare it, all you have to do is just throw it in the frying pan, throw it in the pot, because all the other work has been done. And that saves a lot of time. You know, just taking a few minutes to plan out your meals for the day and have everything prepared or pre-prepped. That will save a lot of time. But to save time, we really do need to put more time into that preparation of our meals.
I know Dr. Boyce can appreciate this one. I ain't stepping on nobody's toes, but, perspective is everything. And so this is an article, The Ugly Side Effects of Eating McDonald's. Weight gain is not so surprising potential side effect of eating a lot of calorie-dense fast foods. But the negatives become easier to visualize when you consider the sheer enormity of the portions you are served. As a portion size researcher tracking the history of growing portion sizes, research found that fast food portions are 2 to 5 times larger than they were in the past. 2 to 5 times larger. Last year, close to around this time, Dr. Boyce had a conflict with the singer Lizzo. And, this whole concept of body shaming, and his argument was, I'm talking about health. If however you're shaped, if you're shaped like a brick, you're shaped like a bottle, the concept, are you a healthy bottle or a healthy brick? And what's happened is we're in a cancel culture where a lot of times, I'm not going to say all the times, certain just research-based factual information kind of gets ostracized because it doesn't go along with the social marketing narrative of just be cool with what you are. Don't take no effort into getting healthier. Just be cool with what you are. And that's equivalent to telling me, okay, I'm out here, I'm broke. And so instead of me going to get a job, I'm gonna get mad at you because you called me broke. You shouldn't be shaming me because I'm broke. And you have every right to say, well, if you don't like being broke, go get a job. And so when we're talking about our health, it's literally this same dynamic. I have obese people in my family, right? If I didn't come up here to Kentucky, back when I was younger, I would probably be obese because my family is from deep south in Louisiana. We eat very good. Lots of fatty, very good tasting food. The ribs, the chicken, the fish, the seafood. And so we know that where you're at is going to dictate also what kind of food is available to you. But saying that to say, I see little kids, and like I said, I don't come from a place of judgment at all. I come from a place of concern. I wish I understood these things a long time ago, right? But I see little kids, it looks like somebody pumped them up with an air pump. And I'm like, this is unnatural. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was one obese person in my whole school. This was in the 80s. It was Trey Taylor. I ain't calling him bro. It's my peoples. But that was an anomaly. Like, hey, that was weird. You never saw anybody that was obese. And so I've literally, in what, my limited 40 years on this planet, have watched to where suddenly there's more, and I think you had mentioned it, America has the largest rate of obesity. There's actually more people, and I know statistically there's more obese people in North America than not. It doesn't mean that somebody that's skinny is healthier, right? There's skinny people like, hey, you're starving yourself of your nutrients. So either way can be deleterious. So once again, for the skinny people who, hey, I don't want to eat the meat, I don't want to eat the protein, I want to be nice to the animals, that doesn't necessarily equate to a healthy diet as well. So once again, this is where we have the conversations of what are the specific healthy foods. in Texas, I noticed you had put up a stat. I think arable land in Texas is about $3,000 per acre. Okay, I've been seeing stories where people are getting $10,000 electric bills, $5,000 electric bills. This is for a month of electricity where I can only put my heat on 64. My mind, I hate to get in situations where I'd be like, well, if that was me, because that's Monday morning quarterbacking. But now once you've seen, as the antlers go up, okay, I see this is a problem. So if I come up on my STEMI check, my income tax, I come up on a lick this year, I'm going to make sure I get an acre of land, arable land in Texas, right? Because I know I could spend 4 times this just for a week of energy that I wasn't even able to fully use. And so it's putting it into perspective when we talk about our diets. So with this acre that I'm going to spend $3,000 on, what is it that, I'm going to go in with 5 other people. What do you eat? You eat greens? What do you eat? Sweet potatoes? What do you eat? Carrots? We're going to make sure we're specifically going to grow what it is we eat first. If you remember the conversation we had about Booker T. Watley, we're not in a situation where we can just experiment and have a good time and have a gardening hobby. We really need to be codified and have some very specific, concise action items. What are we eating, y'all? How many of us is it? How much space does it take per person that needs to eat? To this degree, this is where your fundraisers, the people know how to get to the bag, need to know how many acres we need, y'all. I don't need to know how to farm. How many acres we need? Okay, we need 50,000 acres to feed 1 million black families. Don't quote me on that, but we know a family of 4 needs 800 square feet for a garden to supply your daily intake of produce. And so what you're going to do is strategically multiply this times we want to be able to feed this many people. We know everybody's not going to be able to pay full price, but for those that can, and this is when you get into economics, this is when you start leveraging. Okay, you're in a community that, okay, bro, I see you ain't really got money to pay for this vegetable box for mom, for grandmom, but hey, you put in 5 hours at this urban farm today. I mean, I can't pay you a full salary, but I can give you $20 an hour for a couple of hours out of the week on top of giving your grandmother, your mother, whoever, a discount on this produce box, which in some places, like at the Black Soil Fulfillment Center we have here in Lexington, we accept EBT now. And so once again, it's a thing of really, because the resources exist, the land exists, the seeds exist, the hunger exists. If you're living, you're hungry. And so all of the reasons to really take this serious already exist. This is a matter of, how do we frame this conversation? Are we having this conversation enough? I know you said we need to ratify our titles. How do you ratify food security? I get it, but once again, as somebody who embraces ratchet culture in many ways, I want ratchet people got to eat too.
Another negative effect that comes along with fast food that I don't think we really think about is that it really negatively affects sexual reproduction. Just going to read you a quote from the article, The Ugly Side Effects of Eating McDonald's, which really applies to all fast foods, not just McDonald's. It says that studies link red meat to decreased fertility outcomes, and multiple studies have shown that fast food intake is associated with poorer fertility outcomes, says nutrition consultant Nicole Levine, a PhD and assistant professor of neuroscience at Mount Sinai School of Medicine and author of the forthcoming book, What to Eat When You Want to Get Pregnant. She advises that those who are already pregnant to avoid fast foods because they're high in salt and saturated fats, which are not the healthy type of fats like omega-3s needed for brain development. That's a powerful statement. It's very powerful.
Bruh, so once again, let's get to the science and technicalities of that. That's very real. I don't know if you remember, we were talking about atrazine. So atrazine is a chemical used in herbicides and pesticides. Once again, we're not here to say what's right or wrong. McDonald's, if there's tens of thousands of McDonald's around the country, somebody has to source that. Your lettuce, your pickles, your tomatoes, everything that's on your burger, somebody has to source it. Now, if I know I need to keep replenishing McDonald's like 2 times a week, I don't know the specifics of how many deliveries they make a week. That means you have to have a very effective, efficient growing mechanism. So because I know I want to make sure I have enough lettuce for this next week for my 10,000 different franchise locations, I'm going to use these pesticides. A side effect of that atrazine that was known to cause a sex change in frogs, guess what? There's a percentage of that in every bite we eat from fast food. It wasn't because Illuminati came down and said, I want to poison you. It's because y'all wanted this fast food at this high frequency. And so to give you, because we try to supply demand, because you demand this, I have to produce it. If we're doing this naturally, then hey, this might take me a little longer to have this hamburger to where you could come get one every single day. You can come get this chicken dinner every single day. That means, I have to do something with these chickens, because chickens have a gestation period. First, they got to be born, then they got to grow. And so what science has done is figured out, since all y'all people want to eat chicken all the time, let me figure out how to speed this process up to get it to you. And so once again, in the law of compensation, that's a result of eating healthy food. But as a law of compensation, if I don't like what you're putting in this food to be able to get it to me effectively, what can I do as a consumer to not have to eat that? It's funny you brought up this sexual reproduction. I was looking at an article yesterday, and in the West, our reproduction has gone down like 35%. Males in the West, this is United States, our sperm count has gone down 35%. Obviously, we can factor in stress, other climatic changes, but you would be a fool to think our diet doesn't have something to do with that. I was the brother that came on the other day, he was talking about when you eat donuts, there's all these little things we don't think about that are so good and so pleasing, for the short term to our taste palate, but the effects that it has on our body, it's like, okay, I want to live, I feed myself to live and eat, but now I'm living in misery. Now I'm living in pain. Now I can't get up when it's time to get up. I'm 50 years old and I can't keep up with my grandkids because, I got all of this extra weight on me. I want to go and oh man, I'm seeing all of these new meals and I can't eat them because of what I was eating 10 years ago. And so our thing at B1AG, how do we make sure as many of us as possible, you'll never get everybody, but how can you make sure as many of us as possible fight this good fight of against the attack of the value meal? We can have these what Michael Moore had, I forget what, what I'm talking about. Michael Moore had the documentary.
Right.
I saw that. Once you're aware of what's affecting you, it's now on you as an individual. When I say the things I say, believe I pay when I don't acknowledge and act upon information brought to my attention. It's a gift and a curse. When you got information, you can make better, clear decisions. But also when you got information, if you're somebody that don't want to make a decision or want to stay in your same way of thinking, it can wreak havoc on you.
And we definitely need to.
What's that?
We definitely need to take a look at the way, even if the word value meal has been so socially marketed to us. We need to change that dynamic. We need to change that paradigm. A value meal. A value meal should be a meal that's nutritionally productive to us. So, more natural foods, that's a value meal. Fruits and vegetables, those are value meals. Not because it costs 99 cents. Not because we can go through a drive-through and pick it up real quick. Now, there have been some, green, vegan, drive-through restaurants. They're starting to pop up. Those are value meals that take our life into consideration and extend our life and not cut it short. Those are value meals.
Look what's happening, bruh. So we know who we've discussed about 240,000 acres of the best farmland in America that happens to be one of the major investors in plant-based meat. And so, okay, once again, social marketing. So if I can convince all these Americans, hey, let's give these cows a break. And you have 90 million people to say, yeah, we all want to go vegan. We don't want to eat plant-based. Rationale says that you're now going to put a strain on plant production. Meaning I got to put more of these chemicals in here to supply your demand. Now, you can call me good, you can call me bad, but this is what you demand. You want to eat healthy, plant-based, and to supply all of the plants needed to make a burger. Because think about, let's look at the mass of a burger. how many different plants, whether you're talking about the husk of a plant, the stem, the leaves, how many different plants have to be compacted into one single burger, right? And then we got to ask what plants are actually going into this. These are questions a lot of us as consumers, because we're rushing. The average one of us doesn't sit and look at a label. By law, if you're selling something, you have to put your nutritional label. My thing is, when you start seeing all of these words that are hard to pronounce, then, that's a telltale sign that, hey, there's something in here that, that wasn't produced naturally. This wasn't in the Garden of Eden. And so, this divine providence, we would like to have this protection. We pray over our meals, but okay, I'm praying over my meal, but I'm about to eat poison. And I was given a label of what's in here. And so I think that's more of a moral question that we each have to ask ourselves. How much protection do we have when we know better? We've been given minds to perceive things. We've been given eyes to see. If your eyes don't work, you have other senses that start to work better. But saying that to say, because of the internet, we've reached a point in human interaction where we have all the information we need to make some very key decisions in what Black America, what we'll call the melanated family, looks like going into the future. Because once you've gotten your body on a regimen of bad health, there's not too many success stories.
And I know here at B1AG, we're about success. We're about success stories, but we are just about success. And what we really want to be successful at is being able to efficiently, sustainably feed ourselves and not have to turn to outside sources to feed us. And especially because it's a high demand. High demand is going to require them to do things like use pesticides to supply this demand. It's going to require them to clone plants, genetically modify plants. It's going to require that, just because there's just a lot of people that have to eat. So we need to participate in our own survival when it comes to providing and producing our own foods. And we need to get this to the forefront of people's thoughts. We need to get this to the forefront of people's actions. We need to change our daily actions when it comes to our food, even if it's just about just taking the time to budget for your food preparation. Take time to do that. You'll save money, but you'll also save yourself. You'll save yourself. And if you really want to save yourself, provide some of these produce, your fruits and vegetables. Grow it yourself. You'll save money, and you'll also save your health.
Bruh, I can't tell you last time I paid less than $7.99 for any sort of fast food meal.
Right.
It's been, like I said, I don't eat it very much, but I noticed a trend that it keeps going up, 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 up. And we're running into a situation where we're paying for our demise. Like the system, you can't point at one individual. The system is literally now, you're paying me to destroy yourself. I don't got to put nothing on you or in you. You're paying me to destroy you because of your consumer habits.
But our future generation, because it affects sexual reproduction. So we're getting attacked. This attack of value meals is hitting us from all angles. It's hitting us from all angles, B1AGers.
And the only shield is having an alternative source of food. No, I don't. There's some people I know, but these are people in rural areas that, hey, man, I only go to the store for pepper and salt. Like, they source everything they eat. But, most of the cities where we live in, it's just not practical that you're just going to eat everything from a farm. That's wolf tickets right there. However, I would say easily 60% of our diet in our household is from farmers we work with. It's locally produced. When we go to Kroger, it's going to be produce. And so saying that to say it saves a lot of money preparing food. So we got 4 people in our house. Thankfully, our children aren't at the $7.99 value meal stage yet. They don't even know to ask for a value meal. So as a parent, I'm like, let me get your taste palette on. You appreciate a banana over a chicken nugget. You appreciate an orange and blueberries over some French fries. So come later, guess what? I can get a whole thing of blueberries for almost half of what you about to pay for these French fries. And the benefit it's gonna have on your body is gonna be way more valuable with a blueberry or a strawberry or a snack fruit than this French fry. So once again, what does this mean? This means Dad spends maybe 10 minutes more before I leave the house to make sure I put that goodie bag together, to where I'm not halfway in my journey and be like, oh, y'all crying back there. Let me stop at McDonald's. Let me stop at Burger King. No, just reach in the diaper bag. Here's y'all some berries. Because y'all got used to this early, same way KFC understands, I need to get y'all early. I need y'all kids to love these chicken nuggets when you're young, so you'll always come back to me for chicken. Just like dope, it works the same way as dope. I'm going to get you attached to this product. And I don't really have to spend that much time advertising, because when you want to have this feeling that this configuration of salt and chemicals and meat has on your body, you're going to always come to me. Where to Pusha T, shop with no other. This is what it's all about. And, we can say it's bad or good until we have an alternative, until we see this as serious within our own households. This is what it is. And we've lived long enough to see the long-term effects of a majority fast food diet.
So B1AGers, it all boils down to this. What are we prepared to do about our food choices and our food security? What are you prepared to do about your food choice and food security? What are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to grow your own food? Are you prepared to just make sure that, okay, instead of getting so many processed foods, let me make sure I get naturally grown foods. Make sure that I have foods that are real. I'm eating foods that don't have a whole bunch of consonants and a whole bunch of letters going together that don't look like they're supposed to go together. Food is simple. Ingredients are simple. What are you prepared to do? So here at B1AG, we bring you this daily bread, and we close our show the same way, because it's very important. Because if you really want to know something,
it's drill time on this fast food, and we're going to learn how to grow something.
Yeah. Knuckle up. You got to fight for your right to eat right. Peace out.